Mr. Chair, thank you to the witnesses. China is the world's foremost hacker. As this visual displays, Ms. Galante, as you can see on the chart behind me, between 2000 and 2020, the Chinese government was responsible for more state-sponsored hacks to steal data than Russia, North Korea, and Iran combined, correct?
That's correct.
But numbers alone do not tell the whole story. In fact, one of our worst hacks in our nation's history, Salt Typhoon, was only discovered a few months ago. This Chinese state-sponsored hacking group penetrated at least 9 major telecom companies, as we've mentioned before. Mr. Joyce, according to news reports, the CCP had access to call logs, unencrypted texts, audio messages, geolocation data, and even the private portals of law enforcement for court-ordered monitoring, correct?
Yes, Congressman, that's my understanding.
And Ms. Galante, this kind of data could be used for blackmail or coercion by the CCP, right?
Yes, in addition to other purposes.
The good news is that encrypted messages and calls are much more secure. I know when I communicate with my staff, we actually use Signal, as you can see here. It's a free encrypted app to keep our messages and calls protected. So, Mr. Joyce, if there's one thing all of us, every single American can do right now to protect ourselves, it's to use encrypted messaging platforms such as Signal, right?
Yes, Congressman, I use Signal as well.
Okay, well, maybe we'll signal each other. Okay, let's turn to the next topic. Individual actions alone aren't enough. To tackle the CCP cyber threat head-on, we need to reimagine our supply chains and invest in cybersecurity like never before. This is particularly true with regard to what are called edge devices. To put it simply, these are things like routers that connect a device to a network. According to public reports, Salt Typhoon broke into our telecom networks by exploiting software vulnerabilities tied to edge devices, just like Volt Typhoon compromised edge devices in our critical infrastructure. Ms. Galante, it's clear that we need minimum cybersecurity standards for edge devices, correct?
Yes, these edge devices are frequently the way that the Chinese are able to access and get into core networks that we've discussed.
So we just talked about TP-Link. The chairman mentioned that. And here's a TP-Link router, Chair. I actually brought one here. And you can actually buy one of these things for $20 online. But don't use this, okay? Don't put it in your critical infrastructure. And as the chairman mentioned, I don't have one at home either. It's not a good idea. Let me turn to my final topic. As individuals, we can use encrypted messaging apps and safer routers to protect our privacy. And as Congress, we can require telecom and critical infrastructure companies to up their game. But really the biggest question is, how do we get the CCP to stop? So, Mr. Joyce, there's no such thing as perfect cybersecurity, and it feels like the CCP is going to just keep hacking until the costs exceed the benefits, right?
Yes, Congress.
So it seems to me like step one is we have to figure out how to attribute hacks back to their sources, such as the CCP, but step two is imposing consequences. We've tried having DOJ indict CCP hackers, as this poster shows behind me. We've tried sanctions. These efforts are important, but they don't seem to be enough. Most important tool, in my opinion, is something that Cyber Command calls defending forward. And to ask a question about this, I'm going to turn back to the deep fake of myself, which you met during my opening statement, to pose a question to our witnesses.
With the rise of generative AI, the technology used to produce deepfakes like the one you are watching right now, cyber attacks against America are going to get even bolder and more brazen. Mr. Joyce and Ms. Galante, to deter the CCP and impose serious consequences on them, we need to hack back. Isn't that correct?
So my answer is a strong yes and. It's not just hack back, but it is the entirety of a comprehensive plan that ensures they understand that hacks come at a cost.
Ms. Galante.
I'd agree with that, and we also need to go after some of the core companies and enablers that are behind the Chinese government system.
I think we should hack back the hackers. And I'm going to say something very provocative. I think that we should also consider potentially enlisting private sector actors to hack back at the hackers. I'm going to get in a lot of trouble for saying that. but I think you have to sometimes use fire against fire. So thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you.